and welcome. This podcast is designed exclusively for you. This is her talk show where we dive into inspiring thoughts, ideas, and stories, all with one purpose: to empower and uplift women like you. I'm Sabrina Victoria, your host and guide on this journey of self-discovery and growth. I invite you to hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. Together, we are creating a vibrant community of empowered women. Get ready to unleash your brilliance. Her talk show starts now.
We come to you every day with the best speakers, relationship coaches, spiritual mentors, trailblazers, business owners, authors, young hustlers, podcasters, entrepreneurs, fitness trainers, therapists, financial advisors, and more. We ask our guests one question: what do you know that I don't know? Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Talk Show. We have had over 500 women grace this stage, and we are adding another one to the list today. If you're watching us live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at, so we can send you some love in the comments. Either way, if you are watching us, please share this video so we can get more eyes and more ears on the awesome content that we are about to share today. Today, we are speaking to an amazing woman. Nicole Majik is an accomplished leadership and empowerment strategist and educator with a diverse background in biology, chemistry, metaphysics, and finance. She awakens your true potential by permanently erasing limiting beliefs, yes, and showing you how to live a life you deserve without compromising who you are or what you love. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you for having me. This is great. I love it. Hello, everyone out there.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us. So appreciate you and everything that that you are, the community that you're building, the work that you're doing. It's just absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Just seeing and helping people change their lives into everything they wanted and more.
Yes, 100. So today you're bringing up the topic of self-sabotage, the reasons we do it. I want to ask, why this subject?
Because this is the single reason why we get stuck in ruts, don't have lives that feel 100% fulfilled, and keep us from attaining whatever it is that we desire. So it's self-sabotage that comes in many, many, many flavors, and usually through limiting beliefs.
What do you mean by many flavors?
I like to use ice cream as a way to as a way to describe, there are these different flavors of limiting beliefs, and whatever flavor that you have, such as shame, can show up in so many different ways. And whatever your flavor is, that you can have different pieces, that abandonment, and whether it's abandonment in the physical sense or an emotional sense, which turns into some kind of shame, which then turns into feeling that you are not enough. And it just kind of domino effects. So it's kind of like we just put the scoops of ice cream on of the different flavors. So how many scoops are you carrying on your cone?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I totally get this. And I actually relate that a lot to stacking. So I love that analogy, because that's the same. That would be stacking. And I think, I love that you're saying this, because I don't think everybody really acknowledges that it's very rarely just one thing.
Yes, there's a lot of different things. And the way that these create these nodules or bundles of pieces that hold you back. For example, I talk about the three main things that everyone needs to feel fulfilled. And if you don't have these three things happening in your life, then you're going to have limiting beliefs that are keeping you very, very stuck.
Mhm.
Ice cream cone of shame. That is correct. We'll talk a little bit more about shame in a minute. But these three things that everyone needs to feel fulfilled is, number one, we want to feel like we are safe and secure, right? So safety is a huge part of it. If we don't feel safe and secure, we basically will shut people out, we'll wall ourselves up, all of that stuff. When you do feel safe and secure, you become confident and courageous and to move forward. The second thing is love and acceptance. If we feel like we belong and we feel connected to other people, guess what? You're going to come out of your shell. You're going to be able to be authentic. When you don't feel that way, you get this feeling that you have to become something else just to be loved or accepted. And then the last one is empowerment. We all want to feel empowered. And if we don't feel empowered, guess what happens? We try to control everything. And the more you control, the less in control you are. But if we are empowered and we feel that empowerment, we empower others. And it just becomes this whole elevating each other piece. So you'll hear me say that a lot. We all elevate each other. And when you can come out of that scarcity mode and into confidence, courageousness, your true authenticity, just being who you are and being empowered in that space, there's nothing to worry about. You don't fear judgment. You know that you are loved and accepted. You have the right tribe around you, and you can feel good about just being you.
Wow, that's fantastic. So safe and secure, love
Love.
and accepted, and empowered.
Yes.
So if somebody isn't feeling safe and secure, how does somebody become or start feeling safe and secure?
So what I tend to do is I look at what are the limiting beliefs that are holding you back, because we take on these limiting beliefs from situations that we assign certain meaning to, and usually that can happen at any point in our lives, but for the most part, those first 7 years of our lives, we are just absorbing all of the programs from everyone around us. So the people that you spent the time with, if it was your parents or if you were raised by someone else, you're going to see that their flavors of these types of negative limiting beliefs are going to seep into your world. And you might actually take that and add some things to it and make it your own. So I'll talk a little bit about your own beliefs versus your epigenetic beliefs, which are the ones that are passed down. And you might own those, or you may not even own them, but they're still showing up in your life. So that's definitely one thing that some of my clients come to me and they say, oh, I want to get rid of this stuff from my lineage. Well, when I ask a few questions, if they are owning that 100% as well, then guess what? You can't just slough off what happened if you are still owning it. It's kind of like saying, I want to burn my ancestor's shirt, but I'm wearing it.
Okay. Yeah, I totally am getting that. Can you explain it one more time, like in a different
Yeah,
way? Okay,
sure.
go ahead.
When it comes to like the epigenetics, we take on our ancestors' beliefs. So let's say some of these things that come down through the pike are like, money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that, right? Something like that.
Okay.
Whatever your flavor is, whatever your mom said, whatever your dad said, because whatever their mother or father said, and it just, you can follow it up the line. Well, my mother always said this, and this is how it is, and this is how it goes. And then you find yourself saying the same thing, whether you're thinking it or speaking it out loud. And if it's something like that, where it's that money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford that, you are installing that belief that we don't have enough. There's never enough, and there never will be enough. So it doesn't matter how much you take in, there's always going to be something that takes it away. Like if you hear in one hand, out the other is another one. Same thing. Money comes in, money goes back out. We don't actually accumulate it. So you're going to take that belief that as soon as you get money, it's going somewhere else and not where you want it to go, but where it has to go because something happened. For an example, I used to have these things happen where every time a big sum of money was coming in, a major appliance would break. So that big sum of money would then have to go to a new major appliance. And there was one span of time that we had, it was like a matter of just a couple of years. And we had the washer and dryer break 2 times each. We had the stovetop break, and then we had to replace the stovetop again. And then we had the microwave and the dishwasher. Oh, and the sink. Some big heavy thing rolled into the sink and broke the entire thing. And this was in a brand new house that we built. So every single time that there was money coming in, it was going right out the window, so to speak. And that was one thing that was said, in one hand, out the other, a lot. And also on top of that, so I'm going to show you how these things stack on top of each other. On top of that, there was the God always provides. In the darkest hour, God always gives you what you need. And it was like, okay, this belief that, well, at the stroke of midnight, that's when God is going to provide only what I need, because in one hand, out the other. So it was constantly this feeling of trying to stay above water, right? Doing the little doggy paddle and just barely getting any air because I've got the straw up there, and right. And God will always provide, but at the darkest hour and only what you need. And that's really not what is meant by that. It's just to help keep you going and moving forward. But these beliefs start acting subconsciously, and the beliefs they trigger a thought and a feeling. And that thought and feeling are the mediators to a behavior that you will display. In those behaviors over time consistently, that creates your reality and contributes to exactly what that belief is in the physical to you. So I started saying, what the F is going on with all of this stuff, like constantly breaking? And when I started looking at it, I was like, oh my goodness. What about God providing what I want and not just what I need? And how about if God provides it not in the darkest hour, but, on a consistent basis, so that I'm not constantly going in and out of this mode of hustle and grind harder and longer and more. And when I started shifting those things, it started just opening up. And on top of that, my husband at the time, now my ex, but he had this belief that every time all this stuff would go wrong, he would say, oh, what could go wrong? Or what else could go wrong? Which is why I say, how great can it get? Right? So, I'll challenge you to just ask the universe, hey, how great can it get today, universe? Because if you get into that mode of that other thing, guess what happens? That shows up. So stacking all these things on top of each other, I had the most disgusting ice cream cone. All the flavors I do not like. And until I changed what I thought and how I behaved around it and how I responded to these things, that's what changed my entire reality, is stepping out of that. So it's really honing in on the limiting beliefs. What are the beliefs that are causing it? And then changing it into something that actually supports you in moving forward to what you do want. Did that make more sense?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for breaking that down. I love this so much. Just recently, see, I love having this conversation with somebody who is actually immersed in it versus somebody who's just kind of like shallow in it, because you can totally tell the difference.
Yes.
And I, to complete transparency, am not like, I don't ever talk about manifesting or spirituality or universe or any of the magical things that I know that you speak a lot about in your community. So I'm really excited to talk about this with you. And you just triggered something. So
Ooh.
I identify as, like I just said, like I don't talk about, I just think it's silly. However, probably about a year ago, I started doing, and this just came to me right now, Nicole. I
Awesome.
started
I love
doing this. I started doing this thing. It happened. I still remember the day. I live in South Florida. I was driving downtown Delray. I was running late, which I am never, ever running late for anything. I'm all about time management and like not procrastinating and leaving on time and leaving enough room so that if anything happens. But this day I was running late. And in my head, immediately, I'm like, I'm going to get all the red lights. Because when you're running late, you get all the red lights, right? So that came into my head. I'm like, I'm going to get all the red lights. Okay. Listen. But then I'm like, I wonder if I can trick it.
Yes.
So immediately I get on the road, first light, red, which is what triggered the whole thing. And I'm like, crap. What if I say out loud, the universe is working for me, not against me? So I sat at that light and I literally, this for real happened. I literally said out loud over and 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 over again. I said, I said, somebody just messaged from, oh, that's so cool. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Nicole. So I said, the universe is happening for me, not against me. I said it over and over again at the light. The universe is happening for me, not against me. The universe is happening for me, not against me. The universe is happening for me, not against me. The light turned green, whatever, like normal. I'm going down the road. The universe is happening for me, not against me. The universe is happening for me, against me. Green light. Nicole, I'm not even kidding. Every single light. And where I was going, downtown Delray, downtown, light, 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 light. Every single light green.
Yes.
That's literally never even happened in general. Like that never happens just in general. However, that day, I'm like almost doing exactly what you're talking about, which I always say I don't do, but I actually am doing it.
Yes.
This is so crazy. So anyways, I do that now. So whenever something happens that I decide to perceive as good, right? My perception, I always remind myself the universe is for me, not against me. And I do not acknowledge things that I perceive as against me. And what's so interesting about it is because I am constantly doing exactly what you said, where I'm constantly reaffirming that the universe is for me, it seems like everything is for me.
Yeah, because it is. Even though I call negative things seemingly negative, because we just can't see what the goodness is outside of it when we are in that mucky muck in there. So I usually, you'll hear me say, these things, and I'll just say seemingly negative experience or seemingly negative situation, because it might really suck when you're in it. And that's okay too, because guess what? those feelings that you have that are negative are all it is. This is so funny because I wrote this down. It might have been 2 days ago because I was talking to a friend about, negative feelings and how our negative feelings, all it is an alarm clock. And I'm like,
Yeah.
stop hitting the snooze button and shut it off already. Because that's what we do is we just hit the snooze button when we pretend it doesn't exist. Shut it, like snooze. And guess what it keeps doing? It keeps coming back. And really those negative feelings are there as that alarm system to say, hey, something's off. Can we change it? And if you say, no, not now, it'll just come back up again. And that's really all we have to do is pay attention to it and know what it means. Feelings are data. Yes. I say that all the time because I'm in science, right? My background's in science. And life is just full of data. If you look at it that way, that it's just data, you can come outside of the emotional rise and you can now look at your life from a place of a creational space because you're creating it. But the more you respond out of emotion, the more of that chaos you'll get.
Absolutely. Your microphone is getting staticky all of a sudden.
Mine is? Is it really?
It's crackling. Elle, are you hearing the crackle or is it just me? Because if the audience isn't hearing it, I guess it doesn't really matter. You talked about a shirt, Nicole.
Yeah.
You were talking about if you still have the shirt on, then like you can't burn the shirt or something like that. You said.
Right.
How does she is hearing the crackle, by the way, Elle.
Oh no. Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can do anything. Give me 1 second.
It kind of sounds like newspaper, or like a plastic water bottle being like turned and crackling.
Okay, let's try that. Is that any better?
Oh, yeah, way better.
Okay.
So how does somebody take off the shirt?
Okay, so that's a great question because we have to look at it in terms of what is it that you own personally, and then what is passed down subconsciously. Because great, thank you. You can be exercising a negative belief through subconscious behavior. You may not even know that you're doing that because you might not actually believe that thing fully. But something in your genetics, in your makeup, in your subconscious is carrying that forward. Those are super easy to just get rid of. But it's when you own a portion of it or all of it, as well as it's passed down. You have to get rid of your own first. So in the sense, it's analogous to, well, if you're going to burn the shirt, take the shirt off first and then throw it into the fire. Don't jump into the fire.
Got it.
Because it's not going to work of trying to say, oh, this is everybody else's in my lineage, but not mine, and try to get rid of it if you are still owning it and doing the thing, because you have to be able to release it yourself. Because sometimes that stuff is just locked into our cells, our physical cells, and we have to release it. So that's why we'll find that sometimes we have pains associated with certain things. Pains in the hip, knees, feet, ankles, shoulders. Like there's different parts of the body that go with limiting beliefs and those types of behaviors. So if you have, for example, right, we'll keep the shirt on for a moment. If you have a lot of expectations and responsibilities on you, that's going to reside up in the shoulders, your neck, your upper back area, and you might have chronic pain in there. So if you are allowing people to require of you all of this time and energy and effort, and you're not giving back to yourself to create that more harmony in your life, you can't say that you are going to get rid of that in your ancestors until you get rid of that in you first. So if you take that on and you set your boundaries, and you've got, you set your boundaries and you maintain those boundaries, and you're kind of training the people around you, or maybe attracting a new tribe to come on in that support you in that way. So you're not giving all of that. You might find that there's still some releasing that needs to happen in your physical being, even though you've released it. So you'll find that that needs to be released and just worked out. So whether it's through a massage or some other practice, that's why yoga is really good with releasing, because it gets energy moving and you're moving through these things and you can release a lot. You can release that stuff from your ancestors that's trapped in your body in a subconscious space. Because even so, you might have released it for you in your mind. This is why I say so much. Another thing that you'll hear me say over and over again is the mind goes first, because when you shift your mind, that shifts and that starts to go full steam ahead. And then the body says, no, we're not used to this. We lock up. We're trained to do this instead. And that's why you'll feel the pains and you'll get the resistance and all of that until that's released. So if you focus the mind to move and then you allow the body to process, you will be releasing the epigenetics portion of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100. Elle has a question. She says, what does hip joint pain tell you?
So the hips are about moving forward. When you have hip pain, it's about not allowing yourself to move forward. And that can be through a variety of different things, that if you are putting others before you, or if other people are holding you back in some way because you're not following your true path, then you might feel pain in the hips or the knees. The legs in general have to do with that. So different points on the legs, like the hips, are very deep seated. So especially if it's in the joints or the bones, that's going to indicate epigenetic layers of that. So when I did a lot of that work, I was getting a lot of hip pain. Like my hip flexors were so tight, and I used to get a lot of joint and in the bone pain until I released all that stuff. Now I don't have any of that. And I also have an intuitive massage therapist that I work with, so that I can do my magic and then she can work hers. My friend Charlene does that. And when she was working through some stuff in my hips, it was like I grabbed her a few times, because it was like, whoa, that there's so much resistance there. And working through that and releasing that, so many more opportunities open up when you do that work.
Beautiful. We talked about love and acceptance and empowerment.
Yes.
Are all of these kind of equal?
I'd say, yeah, they're all pretty equal in the sense that, if you need it, you need those things in order to have a 100% fulfilled life. So if something is not quite 100% on, you're going to see these things dovetailing with each other. So when I do my assessment with people, I've got a whole bunch of core beliefs that I go through, and then I rank them based on your answers and just basically show you what negative limiting beliefs are really wreaking havoc. And sometimes people are like, oh my God, I'm such a mess. And when I look at it, I can see how one feeds into another. And it might look like there's a lot going on, but this is also why I'll go in and I'll dismantle the biggest one first, because sometimes the big one has little tails attached to it, and those come off too if we just take care of that. So it just, and when they are all intertwined and raveled, I like to say, especially since we're talking to a lot of ladies here, we when we were little girls, we had maybe a few necklaces. And remember when your necklaces would get so entangled with each other and you'd sit there for like an hour trying to get them all apart? That's what it feels like. But as soon as you have that one that comes out, it's like, oh, now all these other ones are so much easier.
Yeah.
It feels like that.
Yeah, definitely. When, well, first of all, to repeat, we have quite a few people that just jumped on again. By the way, thank you so much for being here live. We appreciate you being here. If you are watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so we can send you some love in the comments. So you mentioned, to go along with what you just explained, I just want to repeat these: safe and secure, love and accepted, and empowered. And if you have those things, then like you're doing good.
Yes.
That makes
You're
sense.
doing good. You will. So if I say, does your life feel 100% satisfying? If there's some area that kind of goes, well, this could be a little bit better. That's what you want to take a look at, is what is that? What is it that you want? And then work towards that, because that's the shift that you want to make, is what is the belief that's holding you back from getting that 100% satisfaction?
Yeah. How does somebody figure out? So sitting down and writing it down, sitting down, meditating on it. How do you figure out which one is misaligned? Like there's a lot of people that are sitting right here live and they're like, okay, Nicole, got it. I wrote it down. My life feeling all sorts of fucked up in all the areas.
Yeah.
How do you assess this?
Most likely, if one is misaligned, the others are going to be misaligned as well. It's kind of like your spine. If you go to the chiropractor because you feel, some neck pain, and then they take care of that neck pain and you're realizing, oh, my lower back actually hurts. It's not that they cracked your neck and made that feel better, and now they screwed up your lower back. No, your lower back was screwed up too. You just need to get it in alignment, because one puts off the other. And so what they can do is, I have a Define Your Desire workshop that I do, and I'm going to give you the questions here right now. There are many layers to this. So when I go through this with my clients, they're like, oh my God. And then we go through it again, because once they get that first layer, I'm like, okay, now we're going to go deeper on this, right? And the first question is, what do you really want? Most people don't know what they really want. So in order to get what you want, you have to know what you want. So take some time to really figure that out. What do you really want? And then the second question is, why do you want it?
Ooh.
Right? And there's many layers to that as well. So when I guide people through why do they want it, a lot of times we go right back to what do you really want? And if you feel like you're being stuck answering the questions after what do I really want, and the other questions are kind of sticking and you're not sure how to answer them, it's because you don't really know what you want. So what do I want? Why do I want it? What will you do with it once you attain it? And then what will you sacrifice to get there? And by sacrifice, I don't mean laying down your life and sacrificing, in a negative way. A sacrifice is a sacred thing. It's an equal energy exchange. It's something that, yes, you give up to get something better. So if you think that you're binge watching on Netflix for 3 hours or more at night, if you are unable to give that up to, put some effort into growing your business, for example, and doing some reach outs for one of those hours. I'm sorry, we have like trucks outside. But if like that could be a sacrifice where I really love my shows, right? That, okay, just move on into 1 hour of that. Keep your shows. You don't have to sacrifice all 3 hours. Watch some time. This is about shifting, but how much do you want this other thing? Because you're going to have to take a look at what it takes to get there and then creating that time, because you can't keep doing the same thing and have all of this. Something has to shift, right?
Yeah.
Just like when you usually, I'm just talking in general, people out there that tend to do everything for everyone else. Who is the one that you're sacrificing most of the time? It's you, in your time for yourself, because somebody is needing you for something. Well, it's time to start putting yourself first, because if you're not putting yourself first and in healthy boundary ways, then you are sacrificing yourself and your happiness and everything that you want because of that. Right? So instead of focusing on you, you're focusing on someone else. So you've got to make yourself a priority first. And once you do that, then you can see what is the time that's required for you to get exactly what you want. And that doesn't mean give up everything. So that's a huge thing. People start, their fears rise up and they start thinking, oh my God, my life is going to change. I have actually had conversations with people who wanted to come into my program, and then the fear of change came up because, this is very transformational work in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
However, when your fear rises up and says, your world is going to change,
Mm-hmm.
they go, oh my God, my world is going to change. I don't know if I can handle that.
Yeah.
But when you step into it, I have had clients come back to me at the end and say, I thought that everything was going to get rocked and I didn't know if I was going to be able to handle it, but they did it anyway. And they didn't realize how easy and how simple it just unfolds itself. Because when you're fearing change, your mind is going to tell you that everything is going to dismantle in a negative way. And it doesn't. All it does is run the green lights for you instead.
Look at that loop. That was a beautiful loop. Fear. You talk about fear being your friend.
Oh, yes. Fear is your friend. And it goes back to that little alarm clock thing where fear is an energy. It's an alarm system. It's a caution, right? Fear comes up to say, wait, something is different. I'm not used to this. And it might say, there's danger ahead, right? A lot of times we think something is dangerous. And that fear gives way to the thought and the feeling, right? That belief gives way to the thought and the feeling, which gives you that sense of fear. And then you act in a certain way. And that fear is going to, if we look at fear as data, like we talked about earlier, everything is data. So if you look at fear as, okay, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of this? Where does this come from? And what is it that you wish the outcome to be? Because let's say you want to speak on a stage, and then the fear comes up like, oh my God, palms are sweaty, mom spaghetti kind of stuff is happening. and you're up there and you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. What if somebody asks me a question and I don't know the answer? Right? How many times have we thought that? Anybody who's spoken in front of people has thought, what if somebody asks me a question, I don't know the answer? And we all know, and we've heard before we actually accepted it, that if you don't know an answer to something, all you have to say is, that's a great question. I'm not really sure about the answer, but I can get back to you on that. Right? And that's not so hard. So when fear becomes your friend, it's coming outside of the emotional aspect, looking at what the data is, and then determining the course of action, because all it's there is to give you an awareness. And the awareness is, what is that limiting belief that says you can't do this? And then dismantle that, because that is not your friend.
Absolutely. Yes. Great. visuals on all of that. Well, this has been absolutely lovely. For those that are listening live, they're obviously resonating with all the goodness that you're sharing. Can you tell us exactly what you do? Who should be reaching out to you? Who do you help?
So I help typically women in business, whether you come from the corporate world or you're entrepreneur, leaders that want to overcome their limiting beliefs. Basically, whatever it is that you are looking to do and you are hitting that wall because maybe you've done some of this work already. Those are the best because you've already done the work. And I like to say you get to that point where you're like, oh my God, I'm hitting my head against the wall because I know this stuff. And why can't I just get to that next level? It's because you're now battling the subconscious stuff. You took care of the conscious elements and you advanced yourself to the point where now you just need somebody that's going to help guide you through those subconscious pieces, which seem to be the biggest ones because they're subconscious and you don't even know they exist in there. For example, some of my clients said, I thought I knew myself, but now I know myself at a much deeper level and know that there's even more to peel back because now I know, in knowing myself, I know everybody else around me and why they're acting certain ways. And I know how to respond now. That keeps everything moving in a flow. So those are the kinds of things, whether it's your personal life or your business development or you're developing a team. Those are the things that if you want to move forward, I can help you identify what the limiting beliefs are and then adjust and reframe them, erase the old ones, add in the new ones that are going to be supporting and keep you moving forward. So
fantastic. Where can people find you? Where do you what's your website? And then where do you hang out on social media?
My website is magicllc.com, spelled like my last name, and I'm sure that's in the description there. And then I like to hang out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm building out my YouTube a little bit more and getting some real good stuff out there, and a little bit dabbling in TikTok world.
Yes. Also under Majik.
I'm either under Majik LLC or Nicole Majik. If you type in Majik, you'll most likely see me in the top spaces.
Beautiful. Well, I love it. I love everything you stand for. Super, super fun. I feel like we could have kept talking for another couple hours.
Yes.
For those of you watching live, thank you for being here. If you resonate with Nicole and all of the goodness that she shared today, make sure you check her out at Majik with a J, LLC.com. It is in a link in the description, a clickable link. So wherever you're watching this at, just kind of scroll a little bit and you should be able to kind of click on her website. Thank you so much, Nicole, for being here. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Ooh, closing thoughts are just take a look at your values and your beliefs and see where the gaps are in there, where if you really think that something is important to you, why is it not showing up in your life? And then ask yourself why that is so. And then just keep being awesome, because wherever you are is right where you're supposed to be, because there's awarenesses always to be had to get you into another new spot on the map in your journey. Mwah. Love you all.
Yes. Thank you so much, Nicole. That brings us to the end of another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our amazing guest speaker, Nicole Majik, for sharing her wisdom and inspiring us all. To each and every one of you, our dedicated listeners, thank you for staying with us until the very end. Your support and engagement means the world to us. Remember to follow, like, and share this podcast with your fellow trailblazers. Join me again in our next episode for more captivating stories, enlightening thoughts, and empowering ideas to fuel your journey toward becoming the best version of yourself. Together, we will strive. Once again, I'm your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to transform and have conversations that uplift each other. Until next time, do something awesome.